Thank you, everyone. Hopefully everyone could hear me okay. And we're going to go ahead and convene the meeting. So if you would please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, I'd appreciate it. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And while we're on the topic of the flag, I just wanted to take a minute and let everyone know that I had requested that the city, in honor of Congressman John Lewis, that we lower our flags to half-mast for the appropriate 4 days, I think it is, David, is it not? Yeah, so that's why the flag is at half-mast, if you're wondering. With that being said, Irene, could we have a roll call, please?
Yes. Councilmember Brigham.
Here.
Councilmember Cruz.
Here.
Councilmember Bagby.
Present.
Vice Mayor Turner.
Here.
And Mayor Walter.
Here. Conflict of interest. Does anyone have a conflict of interest to declare from tonight's agenda? Okay.
Yeah,
Sorry,
I think. Oh.
Okay. Okay. Vice Mayor Turner, please. What's your conflict?
I think it has to do with the L&Ls, right? Isn't that what I signed? Never mind. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else have a conflict?
Yes, I do. I don't think that, I'll ask Jose if this is correct or not, but I don't think I can be involved in the new fees schedule.
You are absolutely correct, Councilmember.
Okay. So I'll have to recuse myself from that.
Due to a business interest for the cannabis fees.
Correct.
I'm sorry, I totally missed that.
Mayor, that's item number 6, the master fee schedule.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Agenda review, any changes to the agenda?
Mayor, staff does not have any changes to the agenda. I do want to note that there was an addition to item number 7. After the agenda was published, there was an updated ordinance that was provided to council with some additional language. In addition, there was some correspondence received after the agenda packet was published.
Okay, thank you. Next item is public comment. Anyone wishing to address the city council on items that do not appear on tonight's agenda may do so. If you would just raise your hand, and I'm going to open it here in the Performing Arts Center first to see if there's anyone that has any public comments to make. Seeing no one, then I'm going to go ahead.
There's a hand up. Yes.
Oh, would you come up to the microphone, please? Just say your name for the record.
Good evening, my name is John Moak. I'm a resident of the Cottages, Buckeye Circle. And I'm here tonight to congratulate and thank the City Council for some action that's been taken on the maintenance on Foothill Boulevard on the hillside there. It's a good start. And I talked with Hector the other day, and he pointed out to me that there was a section there that belongs to the Cottages that he had cleared, and then found out that he could also eliminate some water sources through what he had cleared there. And he had not planted anything new. He estimated that he had probably saved on that area about 30% of water use. That is very interesting because if you recall, I've been advocating this for about 1.5 years now in my presentations on occasion to the City Council. So that seems to be an avenue of progress that probably should be pursued, because that seems to be working according to your to Hector. So we're on the right path. On behalf of the cottage residents, we thank you, but we want to pursue this. So we are looking forward to meet with the principals on site. And I think, Mr. Kelly, you have an email from Ms. Black that states that. And so we're looking forward to your response to that, where we can meet on site, identify some of the areas there, and that could be yourself or whoever, Hector, and identify some more areas and go forward with a plan that makes sense, that according to Hector now is probably the plan that should be followed. And then look for an ongoing maintenance program that keeps that area in good condition. So thank you very much for a good start, and I'm looking forward to keeping that going. Thank you.
Thank you, John. On items that are not on the agenda this evening?
Oh, I don't have can I get a listing of what's on the agenda? Thanks.
Okay.
Excellent.
So you could just review those, and if you have something to say, just raise your hand. Irene, is there anyone in the virtual waiting room that has anything to say?
I can't hear anything.
Yeah. Gus, are you on mute?
No comments or hands are raised.
Okay, thank you. There's nobody in the virtual waiting room. I'm just going to leave that microphone on, and if it's a problem, just yell at me. Okay, seeing no one else, we're going to go ahead and close the public comment portion of the agenda, and let's bring it back for proclamations and presentations. And there's a presentation by the Cloverdale Library Commissioner Reese Foxon. And Reese, it's great to see you, and yeah, even in Zoom, you look nice. So I'm glad to see that you're bearing well here in this pandemic. So you have a presentation. If you'd just like to get started, to shut your mic. Oh, there you go, and just share with us.
Okay. Let's see. Screen share. Is that right? It's not happening, Jane.
Irene has it on our screen.
What?
You are up on the screen.
I am? Oh, okay. I just need to get all this other stuff out of the way. Ah, there I am. Okay. I'm with it. High technology. You know, that's me. Last person in the world to do that. Okay. Okay. I've been on the commission since 2014 when the original when the JPA was revised. And for the last 2 years, I've been the commission chair. Okay, it's not moving forward. Okay. The library, Sonoma County Library, is a governmental agency or a special district, which was formed through a joint powers agreement. The 9 cities in Sonoma County, the county signed the JPA. And they created 11 commissioners, of which I am one. One from each city, one from the county, and then one that is a joint one between Santa Rosa and the county because they had the largest population. And it works pretty good. There are 9 library advisory boards, one for each city except Roanoke Park and Cotati, and they're a joint one because they are joint with the Roanoke Park Cotati Regional Library. And there are 10 friends groups. And there are other things like the foundation. Okay. Supposed to go forward. Oh. There are a little under 5,000 residents in Sonoma County, and 48% of the population are cardholders, library cardholders. Up until COVID-19 hit, we were open 706.5 hours every week. And last year we circulated 2.8 million items. And that didn't include what we lost in this last 3 months. So it would have been higher had we been able to continue on. There are 235 employees, 176 staff serve the patrons directly. 38 are support staff like collections and deliveries. There are 24 100,000 items out on the road every day during normal times that are being moved around. And in collections, we have 15 people that are purchasing and processing the books. And there are 21 administrative staff, which includes HR, finance, that kind of thing. Our budget for last year was 36.4 million. And this year, because of reduction in property taxes and losses in sales taxes, it's only going to be 32.3. And I'll talk more about that later. There are 16 branches in the system. And moving forward. Okay. There are 16 branches in the system. And if you can look at this map, you can see two larger areas where there are no libraries. The eastern side and then the northwest. We do have a contract with Mendocino County to bring their bookmobile down as far as Stewart's Point. There's Fort Ross, so around Long and here someplace. And oh no, there it is, Stewart's Point. But the rest of the county, rest of this area does not have real easy access to a library. So we have purchased a bookmobile, and we purchased it before with our money from last year, and it is being outfitted as we speak, and hopefully will be on the road in the next month or so. We were planning on getting a second bookmobile so that we could cover even more territory, but that's been put on hold due to the budget constraints. Okay, moving to the next site. Okay, Cloverdale Library. It's a regional library, so it's not only Cloverdalians, it's those people who live around us, and their post office address is Cloverdale. They consider Cloverdale their home city, et cetera, et cetera. And so there are over 11,000 people that are involved in it, generally speaking. And 57% of those people have library cards. We have a circulation of 76,668 items per year. Again, we were kind of shorted because from March to June, there wasn't anything happening. And I don't know how many of you are aware, the library on the right, the one we know as a library today, was opened in 1979. And prior to that, well, originally in 1894 was when the Cloverdale Library was established. And in 1911, that library burned down. And for the 10 years between 1911 and 1921, the Women's Improvement Club ran the library out of the Citrus Fair building, or a Citrus Fair building. And then they got the land donated and had this little building built. And for those of you who know the city, I think you'll recognize it. It's the building right next to Pick, and is now known as the Kelly Young Wines at the Library. So just kind of a funky little fun thing to know. Moving on to the next slide. Budget. Let's take budget first. It's probably the most difficult. Property tax. We had a 36.4 million budget, as I said last year, but property tax is going to be dropped by 12% is what they're estimating. Sales tax, we're going to lose 33% of what we get. So we're having to make some drastic adjustments to things. We are going to bump up the miscellanea area, which are things like grants and monies we might get from the state and federal government, which of course we can't rely on at this point in time because everybody's cutting their budgets. But we have a surplus that we're going to roll over into our budget for next year. We're freezing positions. And then we have an unassigned fund balance that we're also going to utilize and put in our budget so we can kick it up to 32 million, and we're not going to be hit quite as hard. It's a little 11% cut. Otherwise, it would have been a 19% cut. Salaries and benefits, it's 72% this year, and it was 62% last year. And when I came on board in 2014, it was the end of the 2008 recession. And salaries and benefits was at 72%. We were just trying to stay alive then. Services and supplies are being cut. Collections, which are your books and movies, ebooks, things like that are going to be cut in a third. And that's a lot, but we have to do it. What we want to do is keep the staff on board during this time as much as possible, because we don't know how it's going to go. We don't know when we're going to be able to open our doors. We don't know. We just have no idea of what is happening. Capital, we're doing a refresh in Petaluma, and that has been put on hold. We're going to complete the things we have to pay for. But the only other thing we're going to continue with is Roseland Library, which is a 50,000 population area. They don't have good transportation to any library. And we were committed to this underserved population and have been working on it since 2015. Now we are in a building right now sharing with the Boys and Girls Club, so we get the mornings. And that's about all we're open. And it's kind of hard, but this is a well-used library, amazingly enough. So we're going to keep some capital in there, but not what we had before. So next slide. How else did COVID-19 impact us? Well, we physically closed the doors, and for a long time we were totally shut down from mid-March until the 1st of June, because what we realized was library was a prime transmission point. We have people going in and out. We have librarians who talk with one person, move to another person. We have items like books that you go and pick up and look at on the shelf, and you breathe on, then you put it back on the shelf so the next person can come along and pick it up and either breathe in off it or breathe onto it. Doesn't matter. And most of the libraries are situated so we can't do the aisles like they do in grocery stores where one's one way and one's the other way. It just doesn't work like that. We also have the things that you have to touch, like books, plastic covers, computers, desks, as well as what's happening and as far as the circulation of the air in a closed space. So a lot of that, I mean, we have to figure it out, because our primary thing is to keep the staff and the community safe. The staff, except for a few, initially were sheltering in place with the rest of the community. However, we now have about 95% of the people back, and they're doing things like in collections. There are 15 people, and they divided into 2 groups, a 7 group and a 8 group. And they work every other day, changing off. So one week they work 2 days, and next week they work 3 days in the building, in the actual building. And other than that, they're telecommuting and teleworking so they can keep moving. Next slide. This is a thing of mine. When we were working for the sales tax, I kept hearing, well, I'm not going to vote for it because libraries are obsolete. And I want people to understand libraries are anything but obsolete. The first library was established 5000 BC, and they used clay tablets. By the time Nineveh came around, the archaeologists found 30,000 clay tablets in Nineveh in 700 BC. And these tablets initially were commercial interactions. Then the kings wanted their victories added to it. But by the time they got to Nineveh, there were things like history, there was poetry, there was travel descriptions, all sorts of things, kinds of things you find in an actual library today. Then papyrus came along, and the Egyptians, and they founded the library at Alexandria. And originally there were 2 buildings. One was burned down by Julius Caesar because he lit the fleet on fire, and it happened to catch part of the town on fire. One of the buildings was the library. So that burned down, but the second building kept going, and it lasted from 3000 BC to 3000 AD, 600 years. It was in function. And at the end, they figured there was about 450,000 scrolls in it. And that library and all those were destroyed by the Christians because they were concerned about the differences in religions. So next kind of thing that came along was parchment, pen and ink. A lot of copying was done, books were made, or things were copied all through the Middle Ages. And in about 1450, as you probably know, the printing press was created. But for the printing press to really function, they needed paper. And the thing about paper was that it was invented by the Chinese in 250 BC, and it took the Silk Road in late 1200s, 1400s AD to get paper from China over to the Western world so that when the printing press came along, books could be made. So then we had books, and that's what we know as a library. However, we are in the process of change again. And CDs have been invented, but computers were starting up in the late 30s, and during World War II, they were used extensively, except there were these massive machines that took up a whole room, not very practical for sitting on your desktop. And then in the 1970s, a microprocessor was invented. And in 1992, and it was only 1992, and I remember when it came out, I was working in a bookstore at the time at SDSU, the World Wide Web hit. And that's when, between computers becoming smaller because of microprocessors and the ability to reach out beyond just your local desk, that's when computers really began to grow. And so what libraries are keepers of history, but they also are the history of change. And we are part of that change now. We've been working on it for a while. So next slide. Before COVID-19 arrived in our world and turned everything topsy-turvy, we had started to change. We value the library traditions, but we had started to change. So next slide. Today, you can drive into the parking lot of any library in Sonoma County, turn on your computer, and you've got Wi-Fi, and you can make a connection. This has gone a long way. When I came on, 25% of the county did not have Wi-Fi. Now we're down to about 14%. And it is important. Now, some of this is because of where they live. Some of it is because they can't afford it. And it works both ways. About 4 years ago, Greg Lucas, the state head librarian, brought the Secretary for Communications and Technology from the UN to Healdsburg. And we had a meeting about how we can do more reaching out and getting it to people who are underserved. And one of the big topics was hotspots. Now, there are things about the size of your fist. If you roll up your fist, that's about the size of a hotspot. You can check them out of a library, take them home, and connect up 15 different items to it. Computers, phones, laptops, what have you. You can connect up 15 items, so you can have a whole family working off one hotspot. And it can travel anywhere and still work. We have 750 of them in the system. 250 were on order with another 1,000 planned. The 250 and 1,000 have kind of been put on hold because of some issues with the Chinese trade that have come up recently. But we still have the 750. 55 of those hotspots are housed in Cloverdale, and they are all checked out all the time. Got an email from one woman who lives on the outskirts where her Wi-Fi is not too reliable. And when COVID-19 hit, she was told to stay home and continue working from home. But Wi-Fi was not too steady. A friend of hers had checked out a hotspot, and he said, well, here, take this, see if this works. And she wrote us a thank you note saying that actually saved her job. If she hadn't had the hotspot, she would not be working today. We also have 10 Chromebooks with hotspots embedded in them. We have laptops, which you can take and use at home. Now, they don't have the hotspots, but if you have Wi-Fi, you can take a laptop home, or you can take a laptop home, work on it, and you don't even need the Wi-Fi. And we also have hublets, which are little tablets for use in the library. If you walk out the door, they shut down on you. So you have to stay in the library, but you pick them up off their stand and you can sit anywhere and get it done. So we were working along and beginning to get that digital stuff in place, the hardware, as well as some of the software. Now, when COVID hit, those digital services expanded immensely. Between May 20th and June 20th, the use for Hoopla and Overdrive doubled, and for Canopy tripled. Now, Hoopla, Overdrive, and Canopy are music, ebooks, some databases, movies, and you can just put them on your computer and watch them with your library card. Bookflix, ebooks, jumped 16 times over the same period last year. Website visits jumped by 10,000 over last year. So it's just shot up. And I think this is one of the positive things that's coming out of COVID, providing we can keep up with it. But it is pushing that change harder and faster than it might have gone otherwise. This Ask Us, it's at the bottom of the thing, you can call up and ask any questions about computers that you want, how to set up a computer, how to establish a password, and do a whole lot of technological things that I wouldn't even know were there. But we had 844 queries in that same period. So next slide. You can use your phone. Of course you can use your phone. I mean, you can always use your phone. You can explore the branches, you can look at books, you can read, you can listen to music, you can watch movies, do all the same things that you can do on everything else, and so much more. Watch the videos that we've created, etc. So it's moving fast, it's changing. Okay, next slide. And with this, of course, we've created more and newer videos than we've had before, more programs in both English and Spanish for the YouTube channel that we've established. Story time, and this is a picture of Miss Kim reading Babies on Buses. We're doing so kids can have their story time. They aren't losing those kinds of things. We do story time, okay, en casa en español. In La Casa in Espanol. Anyway, you can see how bad my Spanish is. But we do them in Spanish. So English, Spanish, you have a choice. We do ukulele and guitar workshops. We do crafts with items that you find in your homes. We do readings. We have a virtual book club on Zoom. And the last one was Me and White Supremacy by Lala Assad. So they're thoughtful, thinking things that we do for all ages. All ages. And in the process, you can make new friends because some of this stuff is on Zoom. So move to the next one. Slide. Okay. As you know, and as I said, the doors of the libraries were closed from March until the 1st of June. We wanted to be able to do a safe and sustainable program, both a curbside, and we're thinking the same way for reopening. But there were a number of libraries who jumped ahead and they had to shut down. They tried curbside, but they hadn't thought it through thoroughly and their programs weren't working, so they had to shut down. A couple of libraries even opened their doors, and Sacramento had to shut theirs down within 4 days again because they didn't think it through. And that's something I appreciate. What our library director is doing and the staff is doing is they are thinking things through. So they go and you might have a few tweaks, but they're not way out of line. Problem that some people saw was we only did 5 libraries in that first 3 weeks, I guess, 3 or 4 weeks. Some people were very upset of it. One of them was not Cloverdale. But I was all for it because I figured it gave people time to test these programs out, figure out how to keep the staff safe, how to keep the customers safe, what to do with the books. And up until July 10th, people were just having to keep the books. And from March until July, everybody kept their books. They were piling up at home like crazy. But they finally figured everything out. We had over 3,500 people picking things up. And they took over 11,000 items. But as of June 29th, all the libraries are now using curbside service, and it's relatively without a glitch. So go to the next slide. One of the things that was holding us back, especially with taking returns, was Realm. We were waiting for their study results. That's the reopening archives, libraries, and museums. We needed to know how long the virus stayed on the materials that were found in libraries, on hardback books, on softback books, on pages inside books that are closed. Those are the kinds of things we needed to know. And the first round, which are those things that were tested, were released on June 22nd. And it takes about 3 days for COVID to disperse. So what we are doing is we started taking returns on July 10th. We take them only on Fridays and Saturdays, beginning at 10 a.m. And we do it until the return bin is full. When the bin is full, it's shut down. Then the bin is pulled into the library where it can sit in typical temperature, typical humidity, and typical air circulation. And on Wednesday, the staff will begin putting them back on the shelf, and then they start again over on Fridays and Saturdays. So that is the way we're doing the returns at this point. Next slide. One of the things we did just prior to all of this, actually it was in November or December, we went fines free, and we are no longer charging fines for books that are not returned on time. If you lose the book or damage the book, you still have to pay for it. But you don't have to pay for it if you misplace it or forget about it and you run across it 1 or 2 months later in your home. You can return it and you're not charged. And I think that's wonderful. There was a period in my life where my youngest son lost a book and I couldn't afford to pay the fine, so we had to stop using the library for a while. So I just really appreciate this because it was kind of devastating to all of them. And my youngest still remembers that. So, and he thinks about it very seriously. So we are now fines free, and I'm really proud of that. Books don't do any good to anybody. They don't change lives if they sit on the shelves and aren't being used. So next slide. And of course, we welcome all. And we are working hard to make it possible so everybody has equal access, or who has access who wants it. That is one of the pushes for the changes with the Wi-Fi's. It's one of the pushes for the changes with the fines free. It's one of the pushes for building Roseland. It's just, we're trying to figure out ways to get everybody so that they have access to the library. And that is one of the biggest drives of Sonoma County Library right now. So last slide. I want to thank you all for making it possible for me to give to my community as I have as commissioner. It's probably been one of the best experiences I've had. I started working in libraries with my grandmother when I was 4 years old. My big job, and I may have told you this before, was being able to stamp the books as the ladies checked them out. And I've been working off and on with libraries all my life. They put me through school, put me through high school, put me through college, supported my family for a while. And with this commissioner's position, I've been able to give back to libraries, to give back to the community. And I can't thank you enough for that opportunity. And I know most of you know that I have technically resigned. And the reason I say technically is we're still searching for a replacement. I had a couple of people in line, but the COVID-19 changed their lives, so they aren't able to do it. So I'm still looking for somebody to replace me. Somebody who really has a dedication and who wants to give to their community like I have. Maybe not quite as much, but anyway, so I am going to continue working on the commission until we find somebody to replace me. And the only reason I'm leaving is because of health issues. and balancing those things. So I just want to thank you. So are there any questions?
Well, Reese, thank you for your service on the Library Commission, and there is no replacement for you. You have some pretty big shoes for us to try and find somebody to fill, and we thank you for staying on. I'm going to open it up for my fellow council members if they want to add anything at this point, or if they have any questions about your report. And I'm going to start with Council Member Brigham.
Reese, we couldn't have had anyone to touch what you've done. Your love of the library system and your openness has been just, to me, wonderful. And your just acceptance of everyone has been wonderful. And it's going to be impossible to find anyone close to what you feel about the whole thing, which made you so successful at it. And I just got to say, I thank you from the bottom of my heart, and the community thanks you. I am hoping I'll still see you around.
Oh, absolutely.
But you just got to know that we couldn't have found a better commissioner, no matter how hard we look. So
thank you.
I hope your health is improving and wonderful, but please stay in touch, and I'll think about it and try and help you find someone, but it's going to be hard.
Yeah. And
So
I'll be really honest. I would really like to find a person of color. The commission does not reflect the whole population, and I would like to see it do that. That is one of my, requirements, goals, whatever. So thank you, Marianne.
Thank you, Councilmember Brigham. Council members, any other council members? Councilmember Bagby?
Hey, Reese, I just want to, echo what's already been said. I mean, I know how many hours you dedicated, how much time and how many resources that you brought to Cloverdale. I mean, it's just, we can't replace you, and the commission can't replace what you've contributed and done for them. So, I mean, it's kind of a happy accident that you're now able to, instead of, buzzing down to Santa Rosa for board meetings and everything, you can do a lot from home. I mean, that's kind of that's the upside, but it's going to be really difficult for us to find somebody. And I agree. I would love to find somebody who is, that brings some diversity to that board and brings a fresh voice. But, you were a fresh voice for that board, and you just contributed so much. So I also wanted to let you know that, through the pandemic, the library has just meant so much to me personally. I'm kind of a regular there, and pick up my books there, and then pick up the Friends of the Library books there. I recently got a copy of the Rachel Maddow book, Blowout, for $1. I mean, that's the kind of thing where it's just like, if you just kind of, and it's that community hub that, we really miss. So I'm glad to see the pickup hours are starting, because that's going to be great. But one of the things I really used before we started the pickup hours was the audiobooks. Mm-hmm. Those were really a godsend for just kind of staying connected with, new fun literature, and, getting my mind off of, all of the nonfiction and the packets that I have to read. It's been, and then I've just sort of watched as the library has added all of the technology that you talked about tonight and all of the online resources. And I just think it has been an answer to so much of what our community needed. So I'm really looking forward to the next century of libraries. I think you're absolutely right. They're only kind of just getting started. And that community connection, the Wi-Fi hotspots, library as resources, that's just going to grow. So you've really, set up the commission for going in that direction. And I just want to thank you for all your hard work. And I'm glad we get to keep you for a little bit longer. So thank you.
Thank you, Melanie.
Council members, any other comments? I can't quite see you all. Council Member Cruz. Oh, welcome back, by the way, Council Member Cruz. I hope you're healing well.
I'm trying.
Good.
Okay. Reese, thank you very much for your sense of inclusivity, for your sense of advocacy for those who do not have a voice. Thanks for providing an opportunity to so many with so many projects, and also for always encouraging the staff at Cloverdale Library to reach out, to work in collaboration, to help them get the excitement to be part of all the projects in town, and especially those that I have organized. You've done an incredible job, and I thank you for opening so many doors to all of us in council, and for those who have worked as a liaison with the library. It has been an incredible experience. I've learned a lot. I continue to learn a lot from the library, the staff, the programs, and I look forward to continue being a partner in programming. Thank you for your service.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Turner, do you want to add something?
Yeah, thank you. So Reese, you're one of the individuals who reunited an ignorant person like me with all the things that the library can offer. I am a 90s baby. I've been consulting Dr. Google for years, and the services that you showed me the library can provide really changed my point of view and really turned me into an advocate for libraries. And just because we have the opportunity for people that are watching this and taking this in, is there any, if there is a potential for private donor or any sort of somebody who wants to contribute help to the library, are there any projects that are going on in Cloverdale right now that could benefit from that, understanding your budget took a little bit of a hit this year?
I need to check some things out, but if you're serious, I will get back to you, or we can have further conversation offline and figure something out.
Cool.
So be happy to work with you.
Thank you. I'm going to open it up now to the public. Anyone wishing to come up and say a few words on the presentation. Here at the Performing Arts Center, I see Mr. Cox making his way up to the podium. So, Bob?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Before Reese became our commissioner, Cloverdale did not have representation on the library commission. We were represented by a supervisor who took care of all of North County. And it was not all that much of a representation. In 2013, then Supervisor McGuire set up a JPA advisory committee. And I was the representative, being on the council at the time, for that advisory committee. And in 6 months, we were supposed to rewrite the JPA and come up with an understanding of how this was going to work out. 18 months later, we finally hammered it out, and we looked for a commissioner to represent Cloverdale. We couldn't have found a better representative. She's done wonders there. She was immediately head of the finance committee of the commission, and then has since become the president of the commission, or the chair. So I really appreciate all she has done. She's going to have big shoes to fill, that's for sure. But I just want to thank her very much for all her good service here, and Cloverdale is better for it. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Bob.
Gus, did you mute again?
There's nobody waiting?
No hands are waved.
Okay, thank you. Well, council members, if there...
Can I just ask a follow-up question for Reese? I know that's not in your, it's not your responsibility, but can you kind of talk a little bit about the commission and the Friends of the Library and how we might, work with them on helping the Cloverdale Friends of the Library?
That has been something that I have been thinking about for a while. One of the things, a while back, they made an alteration to their bylaws, and that was a way to dissolve the Friends because they were all getting so old, and pretty soon there'd only be one left. And I'm thinking, no, this can't be. Friends have been around for years and years and years. We've got to figure out something. And so one of the things that's kind of buzzing around in my head is somehow getting involved. But what I want to do is create a way for the mothers of today to get into the Friends and become engaged and get working with them. I mean, all of these women started when their kids were in school. And what we need to do is figure out how to get mothers of today involved. And I realize that many of the mothers are working and they have a lot of things on their plate, but there's got to be a way to involve them in the Friends. Yeah, and the fathers. I mean, I sat outside of Sonoma waiting for a meeting I was supposed to go into, and some kids thing was getting over, and half the people coming out with the kids were the fathers bringing the kids to the library. So it doesn't necessarily need to be the mothers. I suppose that's my age talking in some ways, but fathers too. I mean, we need to get younger people involved with the Friends because they're right. I mean, they're getting worn out. I'm worn out, and I know others are getting worn out. So we need to find ways to pull them in. And I'm thinking and beginning to focus on that. And that's one of the ways I was going to stay involved in the library was maybe work with them.
So people, the vice mayor's age is what you're saying.
Vice mayor. Yes. Yes. Yes.
There.
I had to think, oh, wait a minute. Who's the vice mayor? Yes. Yes. Exactly.
There you go.
Well, maybe I have one convert now.
There you go.
You know,
I'll probably get in trouble if I volunteer him, but I will suggest him. So there you are.
Well, he doesn't
Message
have
received. Message received.
Yeah, he doesn't have to come every time, but
Well, he's already
somehow get involved in. Yeah.
he's already assigned as liaison, so
Yeah. Okay. All righty.
Okay. Well, thank you everyone for your comments. And Reese, before you go, we have a certificate of appreciation that we'd like to give to you, and it's the Cloverdale City Council Certificate of Appreciation acknowledging the contributions made by Reese Foxen in recognition, Reese, for your service in the Sonoma County Library Commission from July 2016 to July 2020. So somehow we will get you that certificate. But personally, I want to thank you. I enjoyed spending a little time with you when I was running my campaign, and we spent some time together at Ray's. That was some good conversations we had. I shared probably more than I should have with my life as a young fellow, but I enjoyed talking to you, Reese.
Yeah.
Look forward to seeing you.
Well, thank you. I'm not going to disappear from Cloverdale, and you're not getting rid of me.
Okay.
And you do have to deal with me. I'm not
Good.
dead yet. Okay.
Thank you.
So we
Thank
will
you.
continue.
Thank you.
And thank you for this.
Okay, well, let's move on to the next item, which is, and I'm fumbling through my papers here, trying to make sure I have things. But we're also going to do another certificate of appreciation, and this time it's going to be for a planning commission. And let me just try and pull this up. I don't know what I did here. Bear with me. I'm sorry. Oh, here it is. Okay. And I see, Andriana, I see that you're with us in the audience, if I'm looking at this correctly. But this is from the Cloverdale City Council Certificate of Appreciation Acknowledgement for the contributions made by Andriana Reyes in recognition for your service on the Planning Commission from March 2018 to March 2020. So I know you're out there, and if you'd like to say a few words, I'd love to have Irene pipe you in. I'm not sure how she's going to do that, but you have the mic if you'd like.
Hello, good evening. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, good evening, everybody. How are you?
You want to share a few words with us?
Yes, as my term has come to an end, I want to express my sincere thanks to you, your Honorable Mayor Walter, the City Council members, and all my fellow planning commissioners, as well as Kevin Thompson and Rafael Miranda, as everybody has guided me and encouraged me through this process. It has always been clear to me that you guys all love this city and you take your role very seriously. But most importantly, you do what you believe is right. I cannot begin to express how grateful I am to have met all of you guys and been a part of something so amazing. I will miss every single one of you guys, and I'll try to pop in from time to time. And I really appreciate everything you guys do for the beautiful town, city of Cloverdale.
Well, thank you for those kind words. And again, on behalf of the city, I just want to thank you for the time that you've put in. And if your schedule should change and you find yourself having some extra time on your hands, I'm sure we would love to have you come back in some capacity on our planning commission. You know, your background and your knowledge and your professional career brings exactly what we're looking for from a planning commissioner. So you've got that experience, and we'd love to have you back on the commission when you see fit. So
thank you so much. I really appreciate all your words.
Thank you. I'm going to move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the consent calendar. All items on the consent calendar are considered together by one action, unless an item is requested to be pulled from the consent calendar for further discussion. Is there any items that council members may be looking to have pulled to discuss separately?
No.
Seeing no one, I'll ask that question of the public. Is there any item that any member of the public would like to have pulled and discussed separately? Seeing no hands, I'll go ahead and entertain the motion for approval of the consent calendar.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, seconded by Councilmember Cruz. I saw you shake your head. So could we have a roll call, please, Irene?
Councilmember Cruz,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Turner,
Aye.
Councilmember Bagby,
Aye.
Councilmember Brigham,
Aye.
and Mayor Walter.
Aye. Okay, next on the agenda is item number 6, and Councilmember Brigham, I believe, is going to recuse herself. And Marianne, I have no idea how you do that on Zoom. I guess at some point when we're back discussing other items and we're done with item 6, Irene will send you some type of a personal note saying to rejoin the meeting. I think that might work.
Okay, I'm gone.
And Mayor, I think what in Zoom, what she could definitely do is what she just did right now is just turn off the camera, mute her mic, and she'll be able to at least listen when she gets brought back in. But she can't participate or be part or participate via camera or anything like that. So she did exactly that.
Okay, thank you.
And Mayor, if I may, before we jump to item 6, I just wanted to acknowledge that 2 communications were received. They were distributed to the council late this afternoon and will be online. One is from Ron Hennon regarding encampments, and the second is from Dan Rowe regarding Path to Justice.
Thank you, Irene. I think I completely overlooked the communications. Next item is a public hearing and its consideration, possible adoption, establishing and updating our schedule of fees. And I believe, Susie, this is your item?
Yes, that's right. Thank you, Mayor and council members. Annually, we bring before you the master fee schedule for your approval. Once we have approval, the fees will be set for the upcoming year until they've been repealed by the next time that they're brought forward. The city has maintained a policy of recovering the costs of the employees and any miscellaneous costs for providing miscellaneous city services. Annually, the staff goes through each of the charges in the master fee schedule, reviews the hours that are estimated for each position, and then we adjust the fees accordingly. This year, there were 5 fees that were changed based on hours being changed, and all the other fees were based on the cost going up for employees' wages and salaries. The 5 that were adjusted were a CEQA review, the general plan, the tree permit, which actually went down, an encroachment permit. I believe that one is very similar. And then the annual encroachment permit, which follows the encroachment permit. The only other change in the master fee schedule was to the cannabis fees, in that we took out the audit fee and we made that a separate fee so that when the audits happen, they will be charged the fee. So if there's not an audit for one of the cannabis businesses during the year, they will not be charged the $6,000 fee. And we're requesting tonight that you approve and establish the updated schedule of fees.
Thank you, Susie. Council members, are there any questions? Council Member Bagby.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple of nitpicky questions. I apologize. I know, Susie, I think you mentioned this maybe during an earlier report. Did we adjust the price for the now having to run the ads in the Press Democrat that the Reveille has gone digital?
Don't believe that fee was changed because I don't think we knew what that fee was at the time.
Okay. So I'm wondering if, do you know what the new pricing is or what the pricing is for the PD? Because I imagine it's higher than the Reveille was.
It is higher, but I don't know the cost. I believe that the schedule refers to a minimum fee though. So
Okay.
if there is a higher, if it does cost more, then we would of course charge the additional fee.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to make sure that that gets included because that's a recent change. And then just sort of another nitpicky thing, I think we refer to a medical marijuana license, and I would like to see us, as you did verbally, stop using the word marijuana and go to cannabis, since the marijuana is a racial pejorative. And and I realize that it's used, it's still part of state law, but I just would like to make sure that we see it, that we make that change locally.
We can definitely make that change. That's no problem.
And then just one other question. Can you just kind of go over, like, I think it's on page 54, the athletic fee charges. There was no change on that for now, because we're just, if they have an MOU with us, we're doing it free. But it gives people who are not we don't have an MOU with kind of a price range. Is that kind of what we're doing here?
That's right.
Okay.
If there's no MOU, then this would be the charge. If there is an MOU, then that takes precedence over any fees.
Okay. Yeah, that was about it. All right, but otherwise, otherwise it looks good. So, yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Bagby. Any other questions from council members? Councilmember Turner?
Susie, do you mind detailing quickly the changes that occurred to the annual encroachment permit, please?
Sure. Let me just pull it up really quick.
Is there a page on that?
Yeah, if you could give a page number.
I have the presentation in front of me. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I'm gonna go to my detail anyway. There it is. So the encroachment permit, we decreased the senior engineering technician position from 3 hours to 2 hours. That's why there is a decrease. And then the annual encroachment permit, it was set, I believe it was last year, to be one encroachment permit plus $50 each.
Thank you.
Councilmember Cruz?
Yes, I would like to have clarification on how come we have street sweeper requests twice. I know that one says weekends and holidays after hours, and the other one says Monday through Friday, but could it just be one since it's the same price?
You know,
or is it different on the weekends from the weekdays?
I believe there's a difference, Councilmember Cruz, related to the cost of staff on weekends. It's usually an overtime service. Susie, if you can confirm that after looking at the fee.
I can confirm that they both are $335 minimum, but they're based on hours worked. So currently those are based on 3 hours of a public works utility worker. If a public works utility worker works more than 3 hours, then there would be an additional fee.
But this is street sweeper. They don't do this. Isn't it? Do we have somebody else who does this, or is it the city?
We do have I believe it's Recology that does it.
Right.
But if there's a special call out for it, then we would.
Okay, so that is not clear on that. It needs to be also public worker, and it doesn't specify that there.
Yeah.
And perhaps it needs to say overtime days on weekends and holidays. And it would be better for, clear understanding of the whole charging and process.
We can certainly add that.
Thank you.
Council members, anything else? Susie, I just have one question for you pertaining to the fees. Under the umbrella of the fees that we charge, they're to be recovery and not-for-profit, if I'm not mistaken.
That's correct.
So with that being said, are we burdening any other expenses now that we have COVID-19 regulations that we have to abide by? Is there any additional cost for us to do things under that permit?
when this report was sent out to all staff members, they all agreed that the hours were still the same except for the 5 items that I mentioned before.
Okay. All right, this is a public hearing. I'm going to open it up to the public for comments. So if we could start here at the Performing Arts Center, anyone wishing to address the City Council on this item number 6, please step up to the podium and tell us what you have to say. Seeing no one, I'm going to bring it back to Irene to go out into the living room and the waiting room and see if there's anybody out there.
No hands are raised, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Then I believe we have a resolution to be offered, and I think that's on page 37 of your packet. If somebody would like to make that.
I'll recommend the item by title only, Mr. Mayor.
I'm sorry, there's an echo here somewhere. Councilmember Bagby, was that you? Okay.
It could have been me, sorry.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, seconded by Councilmember Turner. And would you like to go ahead and read by title only, please?
I would, as long as everyone in CPAC has their mics muted, I'll go ahead. And that's going to be a City of Cloverdale City Council resolution, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Cloverdale establishing and updating the schedule of fees and charges for city services and repealing previously adopted and conflicting fees and charges for such services.
Irene, could we have a roll call vote, please?
Yes, Mayor. Vice Mayor Turner.
Aye.
Councilmember Bagby.
Aye.
Councilmember Cruz.
Aye.
Councilmember Brigham is recused. And Mayor Walter.
Aye. Okay, we're going to move along to item number 7, and we'll wait for Councilmember Brigham. Oh, she's back. So now we can move on to item number 7, which is a resolution calling and giving notice of the holding of an election on November the 3rd and a ballot initiative. And I think this item is, David, is this yours?
Mayor, I will provide the staff report for council on this item. Good evening, Mayor and members of council. The item before you tonight is a resolution to undertake a number of actions, including calling and giving notice of an election on November 3rd for consideration of a ballot measure to amend Chapter 3.4 of the Cloverdale Municipal Code to extend the utility user tax at the current rate, which is 3%, until ended by voters. In addition, it would order the submittal of the ordinance to the voters for the election. The ordinance was included in your packet. There was an updated version that was submitted after the agenda packet was published that provides some additional language regarding the role of the oversight committee. In addition, the resolution requests that the Sonoma County Board of Supervisors consent to the consolidation of the election with the statewide general election to be held on the same day, again, November 3rd. It would direct the register of voters to conduct the election and provide for submittal of ballot arguments and rebuttals, and finally authorize the filing of an impartial analysis. Again, by way of background, the voters of the City of Cloverdale in 2014 approved Measure O. Measure O enacted or established a 3% utility user tax that applies to all city residents and city businesses. The existing utility user tax does sunset on January 1st of 2023. In response to the expiration of the utility user tax, the commission directed staff to obtain a firm to conduct a presentation, or excuse me, to conduct a survey of likely voters to determine whether it would support extension of the utility user tax. The survey was presented to council at your last meeting on July 8th. And at that time, council directed staff to bring back a measure to place on the ballot, and included in your packet is that resolution that again calls for those actions that we just outlined. The action tonight, again, is to adopt a resolution which would enable staff to forward the ordinance to the register of voters and place it before the voters for support of extension of the tax on November 3rd. Tonight, we're asking the council to conduct a public hearing, take input on that, and ultimately, our recommendation is to adopt the resolution. Do want to note that our city attorney has additional information relative to the staff report for this item.
So
Thank you. Thank you, David. Jose, did you have something to add?
Yes, I do. And let me just I'll go through some changes that we submitted that were emailed to the council, and actually Irene has them up on the shared screen. So that's great. So we could see it all together, and it could be in for the record as well. But just fundamentally, just going through the steps, as David mentioned, what we're asking is for the adoption of this resolution. What this resolution will do is place that ordinance that you see in front of you as well in your packet in front of the voters through a question. The question is in the actual resolution. Even though there's an ordinance on there, you will only be taking action on one resolution, on the resolution that's before you. That resolution has an attachment, which is an ordinance. So what that resolution does is, if you see on page 63 of the packet, that is the question that will appear for the voters. That's the question that the voters will vote on, yes or no. And it is to maintain important city services, including repairing pothole streets, installing city power backup systems for PG&E power shutdowns, responding to natural disaster, health emergencies, maintaining rapid 911 response, supporting youth teen programs, and other city services. Shall Cloverdale's measure extending the existing voter-approved utility users tax at the current 3% without increasing the rate until ended by the voters, providing $445,000 annually, exempting low-income seniors, requiring citizen oversight with no money for Sacramento be adopted. That is the question the voter will see. And when they look at their packet, attached to that packet will be the ordinance that's attached to that resolution in front of you. That ordinance is not being adopted by the council now. That's going to be adopted by the voters if the voters vote yes, if there's a majority vote on this. The ordinance that they will see in front of them, really what it is, it's an amendment to the current municipal code chapter, the user utility tax chapter in your municipal code. It will be amending that to do two things, really. And those are the two things that council discussed at the last meeting when council provided direction on how we should move forward. It's really the rate, the 3% will stay the same. That is not being touched as stated in the question. But what it will do is it will remove the sunset provision. As you can see, and Irene, if you could just scroll up real quick, that way everybody could see it on their screen, if that's possible. So the first change, a little higher than that, so we could capture the first change. Perfect, thank you. The first change being placed in front of the voters, and this is the revised ordinance in the shared screen, is to delete the sunset. As you see, it's going to replace expiring on January 1st, 2023, unless reenacted by a majority vote of the electorate voting on the question. It will replace that by, it will remain in full force and effect until ended by the voters. So what that means is there's no sunset provision. Of course, the voters could put their own initiative in order to repeal the tax. The council always has also the option of stopping any tax imposed on the voters. What we added, and there were some tweaks to that language from the previous version, but what we added, what we heard, and I apologize that the first version in your packet or the version in your packet did not include this, but we also heard loud and clear from the question and also from the discussion from the council that there still continue an oversight, a citizen's oversight as well. And if we could scroll down, Irene, please. Perfect, thank you. As you can see, we wanted to keep the oversight provision in your ordinance. The entire chapter will remain the same except for these sections. The reason, as you can see, that this section is ending is because, is being amended, is because the original oversight section really only contemplated the tax being in place until January 1st, 2023. As you will see later in your agenda today, there's a report related to the tax as far as giving a kind of a summary of the report that's later on the agenda, the Measure O annual report. Well, the way it was originally established was after 5 years, you would get a report, then you would get a final report. What this does is, in contemplation of the voters looking at this and voting yes, if the voters did approve this removal of the sunset, we also wanted to keep the mechanism of oversight in there. And as you can see, it's your current section but modified. The strike throughs and the italics show what's changing. Now, instead of having that system where really it ends after the 2023, as far as the reporting, in this case, it goes to get you a report every 5 years. That was how it was originally placed on the ballot last time as well in your current ordinance. As you can see, also staff will provide during your budget an annual report. So you will be getting reports as far as how that money's being used, but we wanted to keep that citizen oversight in place. We heard loud and clear that it was important, and it's so important that it's even part of the question that the residents, when the polling was done, that the residents of Cloverdale receiving the questions, that was part of the question as well. That was part of the polling. Sorry for the long explanation, just kind of wanted to go through not only the changes we replaced, but as far as kind of what's being done. And then David mentioned this, a nice summary is also in the staff report about what that resolution also does, which is it calls for the impartial analysis as part of any measure on an election. It calls for an impartial analysis conducted by my office. I will be preparing an impartial analysis if the council votes to place this on the ballot, just basically explaining to the voters. And if you see your packet, usually all measures include an impartial analysis, which just include impartially, what does this ballot mean? What does this ballot measure mean? There, I would be explaining exactly what that amendment does. It also calls for ballot arguments. The resolution, and this is similar, the same really as last time, where it calls for enabling the mayor to submit the written argument in favor of the proposed measure. And the arguments may also be signed, by council members, but the mayor takes the lead in preparing that argument in favor. And then there's also the opportunity for rebuttal arguments. Irene will be kind of handling receiving those arguments, and we'll work on making sure that the county gets whatever documents they need. If I'm happy to answer any questions. I know it makes it a little easier since the discussion happened at the last meeting as well on what to do, but happy to answer any questions the council may have.
Thank you, Jose. Council members, do we have any questions? Let me just see. I can't see all your faces, so I'm not sure if somebody's waving. Okay. Well, then let me go ahead and open the public hearing. With that being said, anyone here at the Performing Arts Center that wishes to address this item, you please step up to the Mr. Cox, I still have to read it. So please step up to the podium and share with us. Seeing no one, I'm going to bring it back to our waiting room. Irene, is there anyone there waiting for us?
No hands are raised, Mayor.
Okay. Council members, last time, if there's no questions, I believe there's a resolution on page 61 for us to adopt.
I can make a motion to approve here, Mayor. Let me get back to that screen. A motion to approve a resolution of the City Council of the City of Cloverdale calling and giving notice of the holding of an election on November 3rd, 2020 for voter consideration of a ballot measure to amend Chapter 3.40 of the Cloverdale Municipal Code to extend the utility users tax at the current rate until ended by the voters, ordering the submittal of the ordinance to the voters at the election, requesting that the Sonoma County Board of Supervisors consent to the consolidation of this election with the statewide general election to be held on the same date, directing the registrar of voters to conduct the election and providing for submittal of ballot arguments and rebuttals and authorizing the filing of an impartial analysis.
Councilmember Bagby, did you want to?
Yeah, I seconded.
Irene, can we have a roll call, please?
Yes. Councilmember Bagby,
Aye.
Councilmember Brigham,
Aye.
Councilmember Cruz,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Turner,
Aye.
and Mayor Walter.
Aye. Okay, let's move on to item number 8. This is a new business item, a resolution of the Cloverdale Community Development Successor confirming the refunding the bond. I believe we had talked about this before. David, is this your item? Oh, no, this is actually Susie's, isn't it?
And Mayor, before we go to the next, I'm sorry to interrupt, just if we could have the motion and the second on the item, just reflecting that it was as amended, because we did have that replacement and I know we went through it, so that was part of it, but let's just have it in the minutes, Irene. Sorry to interrupt, Mayor.
Oh, that's okay. So, Irene?
Mayor, I'll commence on item number 8.
Okay.
Good evening again, Mayor, council members. Item number 8, as the mayor mentioned, is a continuation of an effort to refinance or refund bonds of the former redevelopment agency, referred to now as the Cloverdale Successor Agency. This was an action that was initiated by the council acting as the successor agency on March 11th, when you adopted a resolution approving the issuance of refunding bonds, as well as the execution delivery of an indenture of trust and escrow agreement to refund the tax allocation bonds issued in 2015. The purpose of this refunding effort really is to save all of the taxing entities, including the city of Cloverdale, the Cloverdale School District, as well as the Cloverdale Fire District, significant sums in terms of return of principal and interest saved back to those taxing entities. Subsequent to the action of the successor agency approving the resolution initiating this effort, it was forwarded to the Countywide Oversight Board for review and consideration. And on May 22nd of this year, the Oversight Board approved the issuance of refunding bonds by the successor agency. Subsequent to that action, our team that is assisting with the refunding forwarded the adopted resolution by the Countywide Oversight Board to the Department of Finance, and we are currently waiting for their final approval of this proposed refinance. At this time, I'd like to introduce members of our team that are here to provide a brief presentation on this effort, including Bill Falwell and Jim Rosiniak with Jones and Hall, who is serving as our bond counsel for this refinance effort. They will give us an overview of this final effort. And this really represents one of the final steps of the council, or necessary of the council to finalize the refinance of our existing tax allocation bond. So with that said, I'll turn it over to Mr. Bill Falwell to provide a presentation overview of this last remaining step in the process. Bill, take it over.
Bill, your mic is still on.
Oh, is that better? Can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
We can hear you, Bill.
Okay, great. Okay. Well, all right. So my picture doesn't appear, but that's okay, right? Okay. Well, in any event, I'd like to thank the council for the mayor and vice mayor and members of the council for letting us come before you tonight. My role in the transaction, I'm the municipal financial advisor, so I'm kind of overseeing, kind of quarterbacking the refunding and kind of coordinating all the different professionals involved in the refunding. And everything is going really smooth. And so I just want to let you know that we're well underway. We've got all the necessary approvals, as the city manager indicated. We're just waiting for one more approval from the Department of Finance that we expect the end of July, first part of August, and then we'll be in a position to sell bonds. So things are going very smoothly. I think I can advance this. I'm not quite sure how. To the slide, do I just hit it down? Okay, great, very good. Okay, so let's see. I want to go to the next page.
If not, I can assist you.
Okay, I'm sorry, I don't know. I'm a little bit of a newbie on this, so. Anyway, so we could just go to the finance team slide, the next slide. Okay, great. Okay, here we go. So the city council has seen these slides before, but since it's been since March we were there, I thought I'd just run through some of the summary slides real quick, and then we can get to the resolution. So again, my role is the municipal advisor. Jones Hall, who's been the city's long-term bond counsel, James Warzeniak and David DeFama have been helping us with preparing the different legal documents, financing documents. I believe James is on the call here this evening, if anybody had any questions of him. And then our underwriting team is Hilltop Securities and Alamo Capital. And so as mentioned in the staff report, we brought on Hilltop Securities to further strengthen our underwriting team. And so anyway, Hilltop Securities is a major national bond underwriter. They'll work in the role as senior managing underwriter. And Alamo Capital will serve very ably as the co-manager. So they'll, Hilltop Securities will sell the majority of the bonds and Alamo Capital will sell a portion of them. And that will be worked out between the two firms. But we have two very capable underwriters, very experienced. Mike Kavanaugh and Ryan, I've known Mike for years, done other work with him. The firm's got a great reputation, as does Alamo Capital. So those are our underwriters. And then our fiscal consultant is Dave Schy of HDL Corn & Cohn. He worked on the 2015 bonds that we're refunding, and he's highly capable. And so he's already prepared a report. Much of that information will go into our official statement. So the next slide, please. Okay, we keep going. Okay, so this is, the council members have seen this before, so this is just a rehash. But basically, we're looking at refinancing or refunding, if you would, a little over $24 million of existing successor agency bonds. The average coupon on those bonds is 3.84%, and we intend to refinance those at a significantly lower rate. We estimated these numbers about 2.67%, and so that's where the savings comes in. And the key thing here is that these bonds can be refunded and redeemed as early as August 1st, 2020 of this year, with no prepayment premium. So that was a very beneficial optional call feature we were able to get on the 2015 bonds. And so we're taking advantage of that now by refinancing or refunding the 2015 bonds again. Okay, so much for that slide. And so what before you, the documents is a resolution confirming the issuance of the refunding bonds and approving the preliminary official statement and a bond purchase agreement. And we're going to have, most of the bonds will be tax exempt, a small portion will be taxable on the advice of bond counsel. And the resolution confirms the issuance of what we'll call the 2020A tax exempt bonds. And the 2020B taxable bonds. And then it designates by name our bond underwriters, namely Hilltop Securities and Alamo Capital. And it also approves what we call a form of preliminary official statement. And in other words, there's a lot of blanks in that document if you had a chance to kind of go through it. And those blanks will be filled in after we final price the bonds. So that's why we call it a form of preliminary official statement. But we go through and take this very seriously about making sure all our information is accurate and correct. City staff is reviewing everything and providing comments. So I believe we're going to have a very good document when we finish. And then the other document is a form of bond purchase agreement. And that indicates the terms and conditions of the bond sale between the successor agency and the underwriters. It's a legal agreement. And again, there's a lot of blanks in that because we can't fill those in until we final price the bonds. But all the key elements, conditions will remain. So I can move on to the next slide, please. Okay, and so the financing plan, you've probably seen this slide before. The vast majority of it is tax-exempt bonds. We originally thought we'd have about $1,240,000 of taxable bonds, but we're going to be slightly higher. Bond counsel, James Warzeniak, has been working with staff. We think probably that number is going to be closer to $2,370,000. And this is on the advice of bond counsel, so it basically takes unspent tax-exempt proceeds from the prior 2006 and 2007 bonds that the 2015 bonds refunded, and so that we can spend those funds now as taxable bonds. So as opposed to using those funds to pay down part of the bond issue. So it enables you to do something with the money, which is a positive. Okay? And as indicated, we're doing this to lower annual debt service. And then the result of that is it provides additional residual distributions, which basically means you get to keep more of your own property tax that belongs to the city that is generated by property in the project area. And so the lower, we can reduce that debt service in all the taxing entities, not just the city, but all the different taxing entities, the schools and the county and everyone else gets to share in that benefit. So it's a great thing. Okay, next slide, please. And so we're contemplating a publicly sold bond issue. We've done a lot of work already. Financing team's been retained. As the city manager indicated, we obtained approval from the Sonoma County Oversight Board on the 22nd of May. And now we're awaiting approval from the Department of Finance. We have to have their approval before we can actually sell the bonds. And we anticipate that will occur end of July, first week in August. I have on our schedule August 3rd, but it's real close. And so the next steps the financing team is taking is we're going to be getting a credit rating from Standard & Poor's. I anticipate a very good rating. It'll be, I presume, in the A category, which is very strong. And then I anticipate that we'll receive municipal bond insurance quotes from a couple of the bond insurance companies. And that will enable us to sell the bonds at even lower rates. And so that would be coming next. And then we'll be refining the preliminary official statement. And then once the bonds are sold and all the interest rates are locked in, then we take the preliminary official statement, plug in all the final numbers, and then it becomes a final official statement. So it's kind of like a metamorphosis in a way. And this will be what we call a negotiated public sale. As your municipal advisor, I will review all the proposed interest rates for purchasing the bonds by the underwriters to make sure everything reflects market. They'll provide detailed comps of similar issues that have sold. As we look at those, then we can ascertain that the proposed purchase prices for the bonds is correct. And so once the city would approve those rates, I will make a recommendation to staff. then a bond purchase agreement is executed between the city or successor agency, if you would, and the bond underwriters. Okay, that's the next slide then. And okay, so this is what we've shown the city council in the past. We haven't changed that because we don't really know, what interest rates we're going to sell the bonds until we actually price it. And this whole process has taken about 6 months. So we're kind of hanging out there a lot. But the good news is the market is actually stronger than we ran these numbers back on February 7th. We think we're going to end up, if everything goes, of course, we never know, something over $3 million. And, but you didn't hear me say that because if we don't get $3 million, I don't want to create false expectations. But the market's been moving in our direction, and so that's a real positive. So next slide. And this is basically a slide you've seen before based upon those numbers from February 7th. And, the savings are very good, even at this level. They're over 10% net present value savings. And the industry standard is that you should try to have at least 3%. So we're actually 3 times over the minimum of, savings threshold in our industry for PV savings. So anyway, that's next slide, please. Okay, and so this is, of all the slides, this is probably the most interesting. And again, the city council and staff have seen this before. We simply took the estimated gross savings of $2,781,454, and then these percentages have been provided us by our fiscal consultant, Dave Shy. And so if you see that plays out, that shows, the amount of basically extra property tax revenue, all the tax entities are going to be able to save because we're refinancing these bonds and lowering the debt service on the bonds. So therefore, less property tax is needed to pay debt service on the bonds, and that becomes the residual property tax revenues each taxing entity gets to keep. So that is a real positive thing. As usual, the school districts receive the greatest share of the property tax. About 52% of these savings will go to the public schools. And then the rest is split up between the other taxing entities. The city of Cloverdale general funds get 22%, which is really good. And a lot of cities would only get maybe 10%. So that's a nice percentage that the city of Cloverdale general fund will realize. And then also there's benefit for your CalSPERT public employee tax. So anyway, that's so the next slide. And okay, so here's our schedule. Basically, the city manager ran through the different steps we've gone through. Right now, we submitted everything. Susie Holmes submitted everything to Department of Finance at the end of May. And they take 60 days to review. And so we don't anticipate hearing back from them until the latter part of July, the first week in August. So once they, I know I said July 26th, but it might be a few days less. We're planning on pricing the bonds. That means we're actually, the underwriters make a firm bid to purchase the bonds. I'll review all that as your financial municipal advisor and make sure it's correct. And then on that day that the bonds are final priced, then the city would agree to accept the proposed purchase price of the bonds. And then we would close in approximately 2 to 3 weeks. The one change on this schedule is that we've talked about now moving the closing back till September 17th to have a little more time. I think as we looked at the difference in time between September 3rd and August 20th, we felt we needed a few more working days, and we didn't think it was necessary to push quite that hard. And then you have the Labor Day holiday coming up as well. So we're thinking of pushing that out just a couple weeks to have a little more lubrication in the schedule, if you would. So that's it. So everything's going really great. The market continues to improve. There's a lot of demand, much more demand for tax-exempt bonds than there is supply. And so that really helps our market. And as you look at the 10-year Treasury and mortgage rates, interest rates have fallen because of the impact by a large part of the virus on the economy. But rates have been falling even before we had hit with the virus. So anyway, so it's a great time for the city and successor agency to take advantage of these extremely low rates and lock in the refunding savings. So anyway, so that concludes my comments. If any questions from any members of the City Council or staff, I'd be happy to entertain those. I think James is on the call too. James Rosenek, our bond counsel, so he'd be happy to respond as well.
Well, Bill, thank you for that presentation. It's it's clear as mud now for me at least. I like to sit here and pretend I understand everything that you said, and I personally try and look for the downside to this, and I just can't seem to come up with any downside. You know, I look at this general fund over a period of time, you know, saving $613,000, and I look at our school district, they're really making out well. So I don't see any negativity to this, but I'm going to open it up to my fellow council members to see if they spot anything here. So council members, any questions?
I have a comment.
Okay. I see none.
Marianne has a comment.
Marianne, I'm sorry, I'm not seeing your picture here waving, but please.
That's all right. I agree with you guys. I don't see a downside. It's just intelligent finance. So I'm behind it.
You know, and I guess like most of us council members, you know, we don't understand every detail of it, but we surely understand that when our city attorney gives the nod that it's a good deal, our finance director and our city manager, you'd like to think that they're guiding us in the right direction. So with that being said, I'm going to open it up to the public at this point. If there's any comments from the public on this item. I see there's none here at the Performing Arts Center. Irene, is there anything in the waiting room?
There is not, Mayor. No hands.
Okay. So I'm gonna bring it back. If somebody would like to add anything, now's the time to do it, council members. Otherwise, there is a resolution on page 73. And we've sat through this presentation before, so for the general public, you know, we've listened to this before, and the questions that we did have in the past have already been answered. So,
Here we have Councilmember Beck.
Melanie, please.
There we go. Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate what you were saying. You know, you and I had the opportunity to hear this in the police admin and finance subcommittee. It was one of the last elbow-to-elbow subcommittee meetings in that conference room. And you know, and actually, I remember that we were referring to COVID-19 because we knew it was on our way. It was on its way here. So yeah, we've had the opportunity to hear this and consider it. And, you know, yeah, we don't, I'll speak for myself. I certainly don't understand every detail and, you know, line before me, but I think all of us have refinanced our houses or have refinanced debt. And, you know, this is just a smart financial move. And this is exactly what we asked our staff to bring to us to address our pension issues and other financing issues, is bring us smart finance opportunities. And that's exactly what city manager and has done here, and you know, leading the way on looking out for our financial future. So you're right, Gus, this is one of the most dense packet items that we've had to deal with, but you know, when it really comes down to it, this is just smart money management, and it's a great opportunity to us and all of the taxpayers in the community. So I really do support this, and I'm glad to see. I think we're probably going to be moving forward with it tonight.
Thank you. Council members, anyone else? Okay, well, if I'm not mistaken, there's a resolution on page 73.
I can offer that, Gus. Make a motion to approve a resolution of the Cloverdale Community Development Successor Agency confirming the issuance of refunding bonds pursuant to an indenture of trust approving official statement and bond purchase agreement, and providing other matters relating thereto.
Is there a second on that?
I second. That's Cruz.
Yes. Agency Member Brigham,
Aye.
Member Cruz,
Aye.
Vice Chair Turner,
Aye.
Member Bagby,
Aye.
and Agency Chair Walter.
Aye.
Thank you.
Zooming in and for your presentation, and we'll be chatting soon, I'm sure. Thank you. All right, with that being said, let's move on to item number 9, Measure O, Annual Report for the fiscal year 2018-19.
I'm not hearing anything.
And you're on mute, Gus. Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was saying, Nancy, James, thank you. I know you didn't have a lot to say this evening. Bill kind of took the point on that, but thank you for zooming in with us, and I'm sure we'll be talking in the future. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
With that being said, council members, let's move on to item number 9, which is accept the fiscal year 2018-19 Measure O Annual Report. And Susie, I think this item is yours.
Thank you, Mayor, council members. This is the 4th annual report that has been created and distributed by your finance director or manager from the past. Basically the report, I won't go through the whole thing because I'm sure you've read it, but it goes through and it explains how the money has been spent, what money was received, and how Cloverdale has benefited from the funds. On page 217 of the report is where I naturally go because it has to do with the revenues. And I just want to point out that we received $445,000 in revenues last year in 18-19 through these utility user tax the revenues, and the majority of that is from gas and electric. The actual amount that we received is down about 3.5% from the prior year. And I expect that next year, essentially because we are all home and sheltering in place, that the revenues are likely going to be higher. So I just wanted to point that out. And I'm willing to take any questions if anyone has any.
Susie, what's the name of your dog?
Lily.
For the record, I want everybody to know that that was not Olive. I feel free, Susie. I've been there.
Noted.
Susie, that concludes your report?
It does.
Okay. Council members, are there any questions? Well, Susie, I just wanted to thank you. I know page 217 was really a big help for me, showing the revenue streams coming in. You know, and also on page, what the heck was it? Page 212, what services are taxable with Measure O. I think that's really beneficial to the community, especially with this being placed on the ballot earlier this evening. You know, we as city council members, I think, need to be ready to answer some of these questions. You know, what are you using the money for? How much is actually coming in? So thank you for this chart. I'm going to keep it handy. So, and with that being said, Councilmember Bagby, you have a question?
Yeah, Yeah, just a quick question, Susie. How long did it take the review board? This was the first review, right? If I understand it correctly. Just was wondering how long did that process take with them?
They haven't actually reviewed it yet.
So we're delivering this to them next after we're
Yes.
prepared. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
And then about how long do you think that the turnaround would be then?
For them to review and for us to
Yeah.
report back?
Yeah. So will we get it at the next council meeting?
Mayor, members of council, if I can respond to Councilmember Bagby's comment. We were waiting to bring this report before the council, subsequent, and assuming council adopts or accepts the report this evening, it will immediately forward it to the designated oversight committee for their review. And our goal is to quickly convene a meeting to obtain their input and feedback on all of the reports that have been prepared to date, along with the audits. I know the audits are fairly lengthy financial documents and usually take a little time to review. They've had all of those documents now since June. So hopefully we'll be able to fairly quickly get their feedback and input and be able to bring that back to council for your review. Not certain whether we'll be able to meet the deadline for the August 12th council meeting, but we'll certainly work as quickly as we can to be able to bring back their report to council on the use of UUT revenues.
Great, thank you. That was what I was getting at. I was like, where are we in the, I should have asked it that way. Where are we in the time frame and what's next and when's the next step? So thank you. So can I just go back one step though, is that, are they, because I just don't remember, I don't remember from previous years. I can either confirm, deny. Is this the first, we're doing the annual report. Obviously we're doing an annual report every year, but I thought that there was a biannual component to it, but there isn't. They're reviewing the dense documentation every year. And that's where we are now, is that they've had the document, they've had the this year's data, they've had a chance to look at it, they'll compare it to the report, and then they'll report out at a council meeting to be announced. Do I have it straight?
That's correct, Councilmember Bagby. The process for the oversight committee is set forth in the Cloverdale Municipal Code, as our city attorney referenced earlier this evening. The municipal code called for the oversight committee to review the use of the UUT and report back at year 5 and year 7. We are now in that year 5, so that's timing wise that we'll be meeting the municipal code requirement for the oversight committee to provide a report to council. And again, depending on the outcome of the ballot measure, we may not come back in 2 years. If it's approved, we may come back in 5 years, as the city attorney mentioned earlier, in terms of the next review by the oversight, the appointed oversight committee.
Great, thank you for the refresher. I had lost track of all of those. Thank you very much.
Council members, are there any other questions?
Mayor and members of council, if I can, just to comment.
Sure.
I just want to first and foremost say thank you to the voters that enacted Measure O. The funding that is provided by the measure has enabled the city to fund a 10th police officer, which is so important for services ensuring the safety of our community. In addition, it also has funded a dispatcher position within our police department. So both of those positions are just so critical to ensuring we have the capacity to provide vital life safety services to our community. In addition, the funds have been used for other important services, including park improvements. We've done some park improvements both at the downtown plaza as well as at City Park, utilizing these funds. And then last but not least, the funds do help fund our streets department, street staff that are so critical to maintaining our city streets. And so, the council's action this evening to put the ballot measure before the voters, again, we'll be asking them for their support because it's so vital to being able to maintain the services for our community.
Questions on this report? Okay.
Guys?
Mary Ann, please.
Mary Ann, please.
Hey, guys, thank you. I think that I'm sure the public, if they're watching, has connected these two things, the utility user tax and the Measure O. I think it's really important to let the public know that we decided not to raise this tax, that we are just going to continue on with the way it exists now. So this is not a new tax, and it is really helped the police department. And it's also about 3% tax basically on your use of electricity, cell phones. So I think it's a very fair tax. The more you use, the more you get taxed. The less you use, the less you get taxed. So we also have a caveat in there that seniors, low-income seniors, can be opted out of this tax, if I'm correct in my reading of it. So I think it's really critical that people understand that this is not a new tax. This is a tax that they've been paying now for quite a while, and it is just vitally important to our police department. And I want to thank you for that.
Thank you, Councilmember Brigham. If there's nothing else from council members, I'm going to go ahead and open it up for public comment. So anyone wishing to address the city council on this item, please step up to the podium. There's no one here at the Performing Arts Center. Irene, how about in the waiting room? Anyone?
No hands are raised.
Okay, thank you. So the action on this was merely a informational item. Is that correct? Is there a resolution?
The action tonight is to, the staff's request is to receive and accept the report. If council's inclined to do it by motion, that would be beneficial for the record.
Okay, well then can we have a motion to accept the report as submitted? Okay, and all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so all in favor, none opposed. Next item is the subcommittee reports. And the first is the administration and police. Next meeting is August the 3rd. Would the chair like to add anything or give an update of anything that we're working on?
Well, we have listed community engagement efforts as part of My Brother's Keeper Alliance and reopening and recovery efforts. Are there any questions from council member on those? Okay, right. And okay. Yeah, again, our next meeting is August 3rd.
All right. Planning and sustainability. The next meeting is August the 18th. Public Works, next meeting is July 28th. And Jason, is that you or is that Councilmember Cruz?
Councilmember Cruz.
Councilmember Cruz.
Marta, would you like to add anything to that?
No, the agenda is finalized and we look forward to a good discussion.
Okay, thank you. Irene, could you move that up a little bit? Good, thank you. Next is the joint city fire and city subcommittee.
Yeah, so currently our next meeting is scheduled for October the 12th at 5:30.
Okay. And how about the school district city meeting? Councilmember Cruz?
We met on Monday. And I just learned that the school voted to have online learning this semester.
I'm not so sure that that was their decision. Isn't that statewide or?
This was not in the subcommittee. This was in their voting today.
Oh. All right.
Mayor, if I can, just to comment on this item or on this subcommittee, just one of the actions that was taken by the subcommittee or recommendations was for staff to bring forward a discussion item regarding a memorandum of understanding or MOU for a school resource officer. We will be bringing forward at your next meeting, a next council meeting on August 12th, just a discussion item relative to a draft MOU. The plan is not to bring it forward for adoption at the meeting, but rather as a discussion item to receive input and feedback from council on the draft MOU. So there was quite a bit of discussion at the Joint City School Subcommittee on that particular item, and we'll be bringing it forward just as really as an item for council direction at your next council meeting.
Yes, on that item, I want to emphasize that it's very important that we go through proper study and reading of the MOU proposal.
Okay. Thank you, Councilmember Cruz and David. The Homeless Community Advisory Group will be meeting shortly, and we'll give you an update as soon as we do. Council reports. Is there any, I know Councilmember Cruz and Councilmember Bagby submitted theirs, but Councilmember Cruz, can I ask you to share with us the success of the garden program that was done last Friday as part of the Cesar Chavez celebration? And I think there's some staff that volunteered, and a big round of applause to them. But could you share with us?
Yes, thank you. This year was supposed to be the second celebration of Cesar Chavez Day, and also the community service segment of that. Due to COVID, this was postponed and eventually canceled. However, the county provided an opportunity for us to engage in a collaborative effort with Daily Acts and also with Soil King Garden Center, so that we can continue to stimulate the importance of agriculture and home gardening. Daily Acts was able to provide 180 bags with soil and plants and seeds to 180 individuals here in Cloverdale. 150 of them were given on drive-through process on Friday, and I thank you, Mayor Walter, and Councilmember Bagby, as well as Mr. Thompson, for assisting. Of course, I have been behind the scenes working from home in my recovery from my surgery, but it was incredible. I was very happy. The enthusiasm was there, and there's going to be another project in the fall in the greenhouses for the public to come and participate of this. On Wednesday prior to the event, a group of youngsters and some adults came and volunteered filling up the bags with soil for the Friday event. So we had two very good events. I need to also add that COVID testing took place on Friday also simultaneously. This was at the Citrus Fair, organized with the Public Health Department. There were 150 tests conducted, and we're hoping that we don't have very many, or we have no COVID positive. But that also took place, and I also need to inform the council that I work with Latinos Unidos of Sonoma County, and we were able to sign up families who do not qualify for federal aid under the UndocuFund program. So that's very exciting for our community.
Good. And a special thanks to Hector. I know Hector was there, and Melanie. He loaded up, I believe it was 40 bags in the back of his truck, and he took it over to the King's Valley, thank you, Kings Valley housing for the folks that couldn't come. So Hector deserves a big round of applause, as does Patrick, for letting us use his facility there. That was really great. So
Yes, I need to say that Hector took time off, vacation time, to help out. So that was really lovely of him.
yeah, I really appreciate it when our staff volunteers, and I always cringe because I really want to make sure they're comfortable doing it, especially with the pandemic. They got to get comfortable with it. So, but thank you, Councilmember Cruz, for getting that put together. Next is information.
Mr. Mayor, I do have some supplemental information for my council report, if I may.
I'm sorry, Melanie, I didn't hear that.
I do have some supplemental information from the Mayor's and Council Members Legislative Committee. I just wanted to mention to the council members that there was an update sent out from the League regarding SB 795 from Senator Beal, called Building Affordable and Inclusive Communities. The League is now supporting it as amended. And this could be a very important piece of legislation for communities like Cloverdale. And I think that we should work with the mayor and city manager should work on a letter of support for this. So just a quick summary. The SB 795 would create a sustainable state funding source for the purpose of addressing homelessness and affordable housing. It would jumpstart local economies. So it is kind of in addition to the known problems of shortage of housing and homelessness, but it also is kind of positioning itself as a local economic stimulus. And what it will do is $500 million to multi-family housing program, $300 million for infill incentive grant programs, $200 million for local housing trust fund, and homeless assistance and prevention programs, $665 million. So I just think it would be something that we as a community would want to support. So I just wanted to make sure that you had that update.
Thank you. Okay, council members, we'll move on then to informational reports, legislative reports. Anything?
No reports, Mayor.
Okay. How about we come back to the emergency update on COVID-19? City Attorney reports, anything?
Just a quick report, Mayor. So we're going to send out a handout, or I don't know if David has already, but just kind of a sheet of the kind of the do's and don'ts now that we have a ballot measure on the ballot for November's election. I know that a lot of the council members do have experience. Last time we had a ballot measure on, we just have to be careful of advocacy. We can't advocate for the measure while on city time or using city resources. I know that last time there was a lot of kind of volunteer hours. We were talking about volunteers from the employees on their own time and wanting to be engaged. And I don't expect the same door-to-door activity because of the pandemic, but that's something we could go over. We'll send out a handout to folks. We were having a presentation for staff tomorrow, to a senior staff, just to kind of go over. We could provide informational materials, but we can't advocate on the city's time or using city money. But we'll go through that. We'll send out a handout, kind of a do's and don'ts, something easy to follow, and we'll be working closely with staff. We'll also work closely with staff on providing just informational material for the public. I think that some of the comments that the council members made are good, which is, hey, the public should know what this money has been used for and what this money will be used for and why it's needed. That's not advocacy. That's just basically, those are just facts. That's informational material. But just wanted to make that comment here.
Thank you, Jose. Okay, how about a update, David, on COVID-19?
Sure, Mayor, members of council. Since our last meeting on July 8th, there's been some unfortunate developments in regards to COVID-19 or coronavirus. Really starting on July 10th, 11th, and 12th, we saw some very significant increases in the number of cases of COVID-19 in Sonoma County. And in response to that, the governor put Sonoma County on what's referred to as the state watch list. We became one of a number of other counties that became that were additional restrictions were put in place as part of reopening, and that's in reference to the governor's roadmap to reopening, which sets forth various stages that you and various criteria to move through each of those stages so you can get kind of back to normal. On the 13th, the State Department of Health kind of took the reins of the health order and required closure of a number of businesses because of that determination that we were not in compliance, starting with indoor businesses, including indoor dining, bars, and other uses. In addition, the announcement came with closure of certain what were considered by the governor high-risk businesses. So it affected indoor operations that included personal care services. So some of our local hair and personal care services were required to no longer be able to provide indoor services, as well as gyms, places of worship, and other non-critical businesses. In response to that, obviously, our Chamber of Commerce has been working closely with the businesses to facilitate how a business can be conducted by those businesses in compliance with the health order, along with our Sonoma County Economic Development Board. One of the other developments has been in regards to enforcement. The Sonoma County Board of Supervisors is scheduled tomorrow to have a presentation regarding a potential ordinance that would provide an enforcement mechanism rather than is what we've largely relied on is an educational approach. The ordinance is currently drafted, would actually put in place a mechanism where there would be financial implications associated with non-compliance. So I encourage the council to tune in if they have the opportunity to the board supervisors meeting to hear the presentation by county staff to the board. Our city attorney has been working collaboratively with county council on reviewing the draft ordinance and its applicability to the city of Cloverdale. It is. The board tomorrow is really just going to receive a presentation and decide whether they want to direct staff to bring back an ordinance that would implement an enforcement mechanism for compliance with the health order. In addition, the Board of Supervisors is also going to consider an enhanced outreach and education campaign and putting funding towards additional strategies to reach out to the community, again, from the educational perspective to encourage such things as use of face masks and other strategies around appropriate sanitation to deal with COVID-19. So again, what we're seeing is an increase in local transmission, particularly in some of the care facilities, but also just general transmission. And I think these strategies that are being pursued by the board are intended to help address and focus on the underlying causes of transmission. That's really concludes my update. Mayor and council, again, City Hall continues to be closed in light of the fact that there are these increasing numbers that we're seeing in our community.
Thank you, David. It sure is a challenging time, but we'll get through it, I'm sure. How about council members' direction on future agenda items for the city council?
Mayor, if I can, I have one question just regarding the update.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
That's okay. Kevin, any recent applications to the grant program that will help pay water bills?
Yes, Councilmember Turner, we've had 3 more for a total of 19.
Where does that put our remaining balance, if you happen to know?
Well, we had enough for 30 in last year's budget, and I was thinking about coordinating with David, but bringing forward an item to discuss whether the council wants to continue the program using this year's budget's grant, neighborhood grant funding.
Thank you, Kevin.
Councilmember Bagby, did you want to add something, please?
Oh, I'm ready with a future agenda item if we're ready to move on.
I'm sorry, Melanie, I didn't hear a word you said.
Oh, I just have a possible future agenda item if we're ready to move on to that.
Okay, well, do you want to share what that is with us, or?
Sure. I just wanted to make sure everybody is aware that other cities in Sonoma County, including Cotati, Healdsburg, and Windsor, they're considering permitting alcohol consumption in designated areas. We just might want to be prepared for that question when it comes up, because as we know, alcohol and pandemics are, they go hand in hand with each other. But it is an issue that has, come up for wine tasting, as well as, a way to help out local restaurants. And I just wanted to make sure that we're prepared to address that if it comes up.
Thank you. Anything else, council members?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, Marta, please.
Yes, I was just recently invited to be part of the Sonoma County and EDB Community Recovery Work Group. And in that group, there will be some action required by some municipalities. And if by next council meeting, we have some relevant information, I would like for that to be added to the agenda.
Sure. Just forward it to David and myself, and definitely we'd like to look at it. So.
Thank you.
Anything else, council members? Okay, well then I'm going to go ahead and adjourn the meeting here in 1 second. But first I wanted to thank staff, particularly Irene. No Zoom bombers today in our meeting, so that's great, Irene. You really are a good gatekeeper, and we appreciate you doing that. With that being said, about what? Oh, yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, Chief. Can I impose on you to share with us? I understand there's a new sergeant, acting sergeant in our police department.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor, members of the council. I just want to take a quick second to say that last Wednesday we held a department-wide interview process for officers interested in an acting sergeant role to fill the vacancy left by Sergeant Segbiano. And we felt it was very necessary to fill this vacancy as soon as possible, especially given the current climate across the nation regarding use of force incidents and the importance of supervisory oversight. We had 3 applicants, officers Ricky Rhodes, Carlos Nunez, and Bo Gastineau. They each participated in the interview process, and they all did outstanding. And based on the results of the interview, Officer Rick Rhodes was selected, and he will begin that position effective August 5th. So he did a great job, and we're looking forward to put him in that acting role. And it's going to be really critical at this time. So thank you, Mayor.
Well, thank you, Chief, and congratulations. I know he'll do a great job. So
I agree.
With that being said, I'm going to go ahead and adjourn the City Council meeting to August the 12th, 2020. Everybody be safe, put your masks on, and we'll talk soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night, everybody. Stay safe.